Hello everyone. Welcome to Reddit Visuals. My stepson said I was just filling time until his real dad showed up, so I cleared my time completely. The gap hit harder than words. I used to believe effort eventually earns respect, that if you show up long enough people stop questioning why you're there. I was wrong. Some people don't just wait for you to fail, they wait for you to disappear. I never planned on becoming a stepdad. It wasn't some lifelong dream or calling. It just happened slowly, the way most real lives do. I met my wife Laura when I was 42. She was recently divorced, cautious, funny in that dry way that sneaks up on you. Her son, Evan, was 13 then. Quiet, polite, guarded in the way kids get when they've already learned adults can leave. At first, I told myself my job was simple. Don't screw this up. Be consistent. Be safe. Don't try to replace anyone. Just be there. Evan's biological father, Mark, lived 3 states away. He called on birthdays, sometimes. Sent gifts that arrived late or not at all. Promised visits that got rescheduled or canceled. Laura never badmouthed him. She always said, "Your dad loves you. He's just complicated." Evan defended him fiercely, like kids do when the absence hurts too much to look at directly. So I stayed in my lane. I drove Evan to school every morning. Packed lunches when Laura worked early shifts. Sat through middle school band concerts where he played 3 notes off key and still scanned the audience to see if we were watching. I helped with math homework, even though I hated math. I learned which foods he'd eat and which ones he'd push around the plate until bedtime. I showed up. For 3 years. I showed up without asking for credit or recognition. I didn't ask to be called dad. I didn't push hugs or authority. I figured trust grows like roots, quiet, underground, invisible until it's strong enough to hold something upright. When Evan turned 16, Mark suddenly got interested again. New job, new girlfriend, fresh start energy. He started calling weekly, making big promises, talking about finally being the father I should have been. Evan lit up in a way that made my chest tighten and my ego step aside. This wasn't about me, or so I thought. The comment came on a random Tuesday night. Laura was working late. Evan and I were alone in the kitchen. I just finished reminding him for the 3rd time that week about his college prep class starting the next morning. He'd been blowing it off, showing up late, not taking it seriously. Mark had been telling him he didn't need to stress, that things would work out, that he'd help him figure it out. I said, "Evan, this class matters. It's part of your transcript. You need to take it seriously." He sighed, leaned back in his chair, and said it, too casually, like he'd been thinking it for a while, and finally decided to let it out. "You don't have to worry so much. You're just filling time anyway. My real dad's coming back soon. This whole thing is temporary." Temporary. He didn't even look at me when he said it. Just scrolled on his phone, already mentally done with the conversation. I laughed at first, not because it was funny, but because my brain couldn't catch up fast enough to react properly. Then the words landed. Sharp, clean, surgical. I didn't yell. I didn't lecture. I didn't ask Laura to intervene. I just nodded slowly and said, "Okay." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every ride, every meal, every sacrifice I told myself was part of the deal. I kept hearing the word temporary like it was being tapped into my skull with a spoon. By morning, something in me had hardened. Not in anger, in clarity. If I was just filling time, then I'd been mismanaging my schedule. So I cleared it. I didn't announce it. I didn't make a speech. I just stopped. No more morning rides. I started leaving for work 45 minutes earlier. Evan had to catch the school bus for the first time in 3 years. The first morning, he missed it. Had to call an Uber on his own money from birthday gifts and odd jobs he'd done. $32 round trip. Laura got a notification from his bank account and asked me what happened. I said, I had an early meeting. She didn't push it. I stopped checking homework. Stopped reminding him about deadlines. Stopped asking how his day was. Stopped sitting in the bleachers at his basketball practices. The first practice I missed, his coach texted me asking if everything was okay. I replied that I had a conflict. The second practice, the coach didn't text. By the third, I think he understood something had shifted. When Laura asked if I was feeling okay, if something was wrong, I said I was busy catching up on things I neglected. Working out, reconnecting with friends I'd barely seen, reading books I put off, fixing things around the house that had nothing to do with Evan, which was true. I'd suddenly found time for the gym, for old friends, for hobbies I'd abandoned, for my own life that had quietly shrunk around his schedule for 3 years. Evan noticed in pieces. At first, he seemed to enjoy it. More freedom, less supervision. He smirked the second time he missed the bus and said to Laura, "Guess I'll just Uber again." Until the Uber money ran out 2 weeks later. Then he had to beg Laura for rides, and she was stretched thin between work and her own commitments. Then the gaps widened. His grades slipped. Not catastrophically, just enough to matter. B- became C+. Teachers sent emails about missing assignments. Laura panicked. She asked me if I'd noticed anything. I said, I haven't really been checking. She assumed I was stressed from a project at work. I didn't correct her. The first real consequence came 2 months into my withdrawal. Mark canceled a promised visit. Again, he committed to coming for Evan's birthday weekend. Evan had been talking about it for weeks, planning what they'd do, where they'd eat, telling his friends his dad was coming. Laura and I had planned a small party, invited some of his teammates, ordered his favorite cake. Mark texted the night before saying something came up at work, that he'd make it up to him, that they'd do something even better next month. The same excuse he'd used a dozen times before. Evan waited by the window longer than he needed to that Saturday morning, checking his phone every few minutes. Laura tried to soften it. Things come up, honey. Your dad loves you. He's just dealing with a lot right now. Evan snapped at her, said she always made excuses for him, said she never held him accountable, slammed his bedroom door so hard a picture frame fell off the hallway wall. Took it out on everyone, except me, because I wasn't in the room anymore. I was at the gym, then at a friend's house watching football. Gone. I'd learned to be somewhere else when the disappointment arrived. The absence is louder than anger. That's something you don't understand until you watch someone look for you and not find you. 3 months after I withdrew, college application season arrived. Evan was 17 now, a junior starting to think about senior year. He realized he needed recommendation letters, guidance counselor meetings, someone to help him research schools and schedule campus tours. He asked Laura. She had a full-time job and was barely keeping up. She asked me one evening after dinner if I could help drive him to a college fair 2 hours away that weekend. I looked at her calmly and said, "Isn't Mark handling that?" She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "What?" I said. Mark told him he'd help figure all this out. "I'm just filling time, remember? Let his real dad handle the real stuff." Laura's face changed. That was the moment she realized something was deeply wrong. She asked me what I meant. I told her we'd talk later. Mark didn't show, didn't call, didn't answer Evan's texts about the college fair. Again, Evan started avoiding eye contact with me. The bravado drained out of him in stages. Sarcasm replaced by silence. Silence replaced by something that looked like fear. He'd grown used to me being there, even when he didn't acknowledge it. Now the space where I used to stand was just empty. 4 months into my withdrawal, Laura cornered me in our bedroom one night after Evan had gone to sleep. She closed the door and stood between me and the hallway like she was blocking an escape route. She said, "What is going on with you and Evan? You barely talk to him anymore. You're never around when he needs something. You don't ask about school. You don't go to his games. You don't help with anything. Did something happen between you two? Did he say something? Did you have a fight?" I sat on the edge of the bed and took a breath. Then I told her everything. I told her about the temporary comment, about the casual dismissal, about being called a placeholder to his real dad's face, about 3 years of driving him to school, packing lunches, sitting through concerts, helping with homework, showing up to every game, every parent night, every moment that mattered, about being erased in one sentence. I told her I was tired of being invisible until I was needed, that I was tired of putting in effort that was treated as disposable, that I couldn't keep giving to someone who saw me as a stand-in, a substitute, someone just filling time until the real thing showed up. She cried, not because she was angry at me, but because she finally understood. She sat down next to me and put her head in her hands. She said, "I didn't know he said that to you. I had no idea. I didn't realize how much you were doing because you made it look easy. You never complained. You never asked for credit. I just thought you wanted to help. I didn't see how much you were carrying." She apologized for not seeing it sooner, for not backing me up more consistently, for letting Evan dismiss me without consequence, for defending Mark when she should have been defending me, for making excuses that taught Evan it was okay to wait for someone who never showed up while ignoring someone who always did. I said, "I'm not trying to punish him. I'm trying to protect myself. I can't keep giving to someone who sees me as a placeholder." Laura asked what I wanted. I said, "I want him to understand that people aren't disposable. That effort matters. That showing up matters." She nodded. She said, "I'll talk to him." But she didn't have to, because life did the talking for her. 5 months after my withdrawal, Mark showed up. Grand entrance. Big weekend visit. Promises of making things right, of being more involved, of finally stepping up. Evan clung to it like a lifeline. I watched from the sidelines, unmoved. I went to a buddy's cabin that weekend. Let them have their time. 3 weeks later, Mark vanished again. No explanation. No calls. Just gone. Radio silence. This time, Evan didn't lash out. He collapsed inward. Stopped eating much. Stopped talking at all. Just went to school and came home and disappeared into his room. Laura sat Evan down one evening and said the words I'd never said. She said, "Your father shows up when it's convenient for him, not when it's needed. And you need to stop waiting for him to be someone he's not." Evan stared at her, eyes red. Then he looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw it. The recognition, the realization, the weight of his own words finally hitting him. But I didn't rush in. I didn't swoop in to save him. I stayed where I was, at a distance, observing, waiting to see what he'd do with that realization. The social repercussions followed naturally over the next few weeks. His basketball coach pulled him aside after practice and asked him directly why I wasn't coming to games anymore, if we'd had a falling out, if everything was okay at home. Evan mumbled something vague about me being busy with work. The coach said he came to every game for 2 years. Every single one, even the away games. That's not busy, that's a choice. Evan didn't have an answer for that. A teacher who'd known our family for years, who'd seen me at every parent-teacher conference, every school event, every fundraiser, emailed Laura asking if everything was okay at home since I wasn't attending events anymore. Laura forwarded me the email. I didn't respond. Evan had to sit with that. Had to feel the weight of people noticing my absence and wondering why. Had to explain to his friends why his stepdad, who used to drive them all to games, wasn't around anymore. The worst part for him wasn't public. It was private, quiet, the kind that changes you. 6 months after my withdrawal, Evan wrote his college essay. The prompt was about a person who shaped your perspective. He wrote about consistency, about the difference between promises and presence, about realizing too late that the person who mattered wasn't the one making grand gestures, but the one packing lunches and showing up to concerts. He wrote about me, not Mark. He left the draft on the kitchen counter one morning, not the printer, the counter, where I'd see it when I made coffee. I think he was too scared to hand it to me directly. I read it standing there, coffee mug in hand. It wasn't an apology. It was an acknowledgement, and that mattered more. I didn't say anything that morning. I left it where it was. But that afternoon, I picked him up from school. First time in 6 months. He got in the car, surprised, confused. I said, "You left your essay on the counter." He nodded, face red. I said it was good, honest. He said quietly, "I'm sorry." I said, "I know." We drove in silence for a while. Then he asked, "Are you still mad?" I said, "I was never mad. I was hurt. There's a difference." He nodded. Then he said something that broke me. He said, "I didn't think you'd actually leave." I looked at him. "I didn't leave. You told me I was temporary, so I acted like it." He was crying now. "I messed up. I know I did. I wanted him to be the dad I needed. And when he kept promising he would be, I believed him. And I took you for granted because you were always there." I pulled into a parking lot, turned off the car, looked at him directly. I said, "Your dad is your dad. I'm not trying to replace him, but I'm also not going to be treated like I don't matter. If you want me in your life, I'm here. But it has to be real, not as a backup, not as a placeholder, as someone who matters." He nodded, wiping his face. "I want that. I want you here." I said, "Then we start over. Different terms, clearer ones. You respect my time and effort. I'll be there. But the second you take it for granted again, I'm gone. Not to punish you, to protect myself." He agreed. That was 7 months ago. We're rebuilding now. It's slow, deliberate, intentional. He says thank you now. For rides, for help with homework, for advice, for just being around. He asked me about college stuff, about application essays, about what I think matters in choosing a school. He asked me about life stuff, about relationships, about handling disappointment, about what it means to be reliable. I'm back at his games, back at the table for dinners, back in the daily rhythm of his life. But there's a boundary now that wasn't there before. A clarity. He knows I'm not obligated to stay, that I choose to be here, that my presence is a gift, not a guarantee. And that makes all the difference. He doesn't take me for granted anymore. He doesn't assume I'll always be there no matter how he treats me. He's learned that people have limits, that effort runs out when it's not valued, that you can lose someone not by pushing them away violently, but by dismissing them quietly over time. Mark still calls occasionally, makes promises. Evan is polite but distant now. He stopped defending him, stopped waiting by the window. He told me once, "I finally get it. Showing up matters more than showing off." Laura and I are stronger too. She sees me now in a way she didn't before. She doesn't take my presence for granted. She backs me up when I set boundaries. She calls me out when I start slipping into old patterns of overgiving. I didn't step back to punish Evan. I stepped back to show him what absence looks like. To show him that people who love you aren't infinite resources. That effort runs out when it's not valued. And here's the truth I don't say out loud often. Being called temporary hurt more than being called unwanted. Because temporary means disposable, replaceable, invisible. It means all the effort, all the years, all the small moments don't add up to anything permanent. And that almost broke me. But stepping back didn't break our relationship. It reset it, on terms that actually work. So, I ask you, was I wrong for stepping back when my stepson told me I was just filling time? Should I have stayed and kept giving, hoping he'd eventually see my value? Or was withdrawal the only way to teach him that presence is a gift, not a guarantee? Drop a comment and tell me honestly what you would have done in my place. And if you've ever been taken for granted by someone you showed up for, I want to hear your story too. And if you made it this far, please like the video and subscribe to Reddit Visuals. It helps the channel grow, and it helps more stories like this get heard. Thanks for watching.